Are we live?
One more second.
Okay.
You are live.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I will be presiding over this meeting in the absence of Nick Heeman, President, as interim Vice President for the School Board for Providence. I would like to call the meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, June 23rd, and it is 6:30 p.m. We will start with roll call vote. Dr. Santow?
Present.
Mr. Ibiemi? He has not joined yet. Mr. Stevens?
Present.
And Dr. Goldberg?
Present.
Great. So absent are noted Mr. Heeman, Mr. Thomas, and Mr. Escobar, and I am here. So we don't yet have quorum. Let me just double check that Dina has not joined. No. Since we don't have quorum, Mr. Ibiemi is running late. We will proceed with the meeting as an informational meeting only, meaning we will not hold any votes or take on any action items. So we're just going to go with the agenda as it's presented. We won't take any votes on it. And so we will start with public comment. And I believe we have one person signed up, Ms. Cynthia Jones.
Thank you so much, Interim VP. May I proceed?
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, members of the community, school board members, President Heeman, and Superintendent Montanez, Dr. Montanez. My name is Cynthia Jones, and I teach grade 4 inclusion at Anthony Cannavale Elementary. I am the regular ed teacher in that partnership. I'm here to talk about how to safely bring our students back to school in the fall. I want to acknowledge how greatly my school addressed the pandemic and how safe I felt it was in our school. There was even a chart on the clipboard hanging from the teacher's bathroom that allowed us to see how often the bathrooms were being cleaned and by whom. I went in one day very early, turned on the very modern and very effective HEPA filter, and proceeded to wipe down all the tables and student chairs in my classroom. It felt and smelled good in my school. There was a well-stocked container of cleaning material in my classroom, as well as plenty of soap and paper towels in the teacher's room. In the hallways, there were traffic markers to control the flow of traffic on both sides of the halls. All of the outside doors were secured, and there was no way to get into the school building except one way through the front. Indeed, there were other measures in place that created a safe, warm, inviting environment, too many to name them all. As we transition all students back to school full-time in person in the fall of 2021, I think it is important, regardless of vaccination status, to allow your clients, the students, the parents, the community at large, and staff members to feel that you are still taking this pandemic seriously. This past March 2021, all of the local school districts in the United States were given large sums of money to keep measures in place that would allow them to continue to combat the spread of COVID well into 2021 and beyond. This money was also given to us so that we can fund after-school programs, provide supplemental learning materials to make up for learning loss. I think the Biden administration will agree that there is absolutely no excuse not to hire extra teaching staff, to create additional learning opportunities beyond the school day, and also to purchase additional learning tools with the $1 trillion+ a bipartisan Congress has entrusted to you. Please spend it. Use it wisely. Summer schools are great, but there is a lot more we can do and should do with that money well into 2023. Our kids need it. Finally, I would like to conclude by urging you and urging myself as a teacher to not let our guards down. We do not know how long immunity lasts for each of the 3 vaccines that seem to be working. And we do not know for sure which mutations will develop as a result of many bodies once again being in close proximity to one another. We have to open our schools to our students in the fall, and we have to let them feel welcome. However, we also have to make sure that come December of 2021, the money we were given to keep our schools safe and clean and to make up for learning loss is not unused or misused in a manner other than it was intended. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Your comment has been entered to in the record. Okay, so next on the agenda, do we have any comments from the school board?
Yes, we do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Stevens.
Absolutely. Thank you for this time. Acting interim vice president. That sounds good, doesn't it? Want to congratulate you on that role. I also want to talk a little bit about the interim superintendent. I want to congratulate him. I didn't formally get to congratulate you due to Nina's she was parting ways with the school board. So I did want to let you know I'm excited. I'm very excited. It really feels like there's a weight off everyone's back. You brought some fresh energy, so I do want to thank you. I also want to thank Cynthia for always coming here, making sure that you put in your public comment. And I want to let you know that I do listen to what you say. So I want to thank you for that as well. And Arthur and Zach, I want to thank you guys as well for clearing some things up yesterday that I reached out to you guys for. Thank you guys for that as well. We're moving forward. Some great progress is going on right now, and I'm excited.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Any more comments from the school board? No? Okay. And just to make sure, Art, no additional comments from the public?
Nope, we haven't received anything else.
Okay, great. So next on the agenda are the presentations. Normally we do hear from the superintendent. And superintendent, I apologize, I have not met you personally, but I will be stopping by next week at some point. And welcome. We are very excited to have you. So normally we have the superintendent give his comments at the beginning of the meeting, but he's going to be leading the team, kicking off the presentations that will be presented by the district team in a bit. So without further ado, we will hear from some of our district leaders. The first presentation is item number 5 on the agenda, stimulus prioritization and 21-22 reopening. Presenters are Kachara Bradford, Zach Scott, and Audrey Lucas.
And if Suzanne, if you can bring those slides up, I think the superintendent will kick the presentation off. Superintendent, are you there? I think there might be a streaming issue there.
We have made a lot of progress over the last year. I know that you have been given a comprehensive update in prior meetings, so I'll just point a few things quickly. We now have a unified curriculum, K-8 students. That means that every student that will have the same curriculum across the school district if they move across schools. We are beginning the redesign process for some of our highest need schools. As the principal of the Leventon Dual Language Elementary School, I was so excited when I heard that the Gilbert Stewart will become the district first dual language middle school next year. That is fantastic feeder school for the program. We're creating career and technical opportunities for students at JSEC, PCTA, and EQ Academy. And we have also launched the 9th grade academy model at Alvarez High School. Next slide, please. This year, we have fewer teaching vacancies from, as opposed to last year. We doubled the percent of new teachers of colors. We require teachers to participate in parent-teacher conferences. We've created a rapid response tool for families. We expanded the Parent Academy, and we've provided, for the first time in a long time, we've provided school leaders with one-on-one coaching. As I stated in the earlier remarks, I cannot tell you how significant that support is to the school leaders and teachers. And we increased the professional development. Next slide, please. We already made big plans for 21-22. Starting this summer, for the first time, PPSD will be offering summer learning for all students in grades 1 through 12. Typically, our summer programs have been offered specifically to students in need of credit recovery. This year, the program is open to all students, and we send targeted invitations to multilingual learners and chronic absent students. We're also offering elementary summer schools for the first time in decades. That's in addition to the summer program with the city. This fall, we're adding community specialists at the secondary level and guidance counselor, which are well overdue in the elementary schools. I've also known that you've been discussing this over prior meetings, but we're also bringing the IB program to Hope High School. We are adopting a new 9th to 12th grade curriculum. We're doubling the number of pre-K seats, state pre-K seats, and giving teachers 4 additional paid professional development days. Next slide, please. And we're making this commitment to our students, our families, and our teachers. 2021 will not be returned to normal. It will be a new start and new experience for the Providence Public Schools. And not just because of the COVID, but because we're starting a new experience at PPSD. At this moment, I would like to pass it over to Scott Zach, our Deputy Superintendent of Operations. Thank you.
Thank you. I wish I was Scott Barr.
You wish you did not.
Thanks, Superintendent. So wanted to talk through a little bit of some of the reopening pieces, as well as some of the financial components here. And then obviously, I think we look forward to a rich discussion at the end. So we are looking forward to a full in-person return next school year for all of our students, as was the case this year. One of our primary focuses is a safe return, which we were thankful and proud of that, how we were able to accomplish that this year. And we are looking forward to continuing that for next year. So as we do that, we'll continue following all the RIDE and RIDO and CDC guidelines. We'll continue with weekly testing for our students, and we'll continue purchasing all the PPE that's necessary to reopen safely. So if we transition to the next slide, part of that is looking at stimulus, our stimulus dollars that are coming into the second and third rounds of stimulus funding. So we are slated to receive over $180 million in the next 2 stimulus rounds, which is a significant influx of funds to the district. To put that in perspective, it's roughly $7.5 thousand per student, a little less than half of our operating budget, and about half of our 5-year capital improvement plan. There are certainly, like any stimulus funds, there are limitations to how that funding is spent, it's required, but also in our best interest to prioritize and address the impact of COVID-19's impact on student learning, as well as social and emotional needs of our students and safety related to the pandemic. One thing I do want to note here that's unique about these dollars is in other cases, some of the stimulus dollars had like a short runway. So this past year, there was an original deadline of December 31st. So there was kind of a rush, but this the funding here does have a longer shelf life over multiple years. So I think as we've talked about in some of our other budget presentations, the focus of these funds will be to really accelerate learning in response to the pandemic, but doing so in a way that it avoids expenditures that will be a long-term cost burden. For those of you who have worked in the public sector during times of stimulus funding, there are ways you can spend the money that actually sets the district up for longer term challenges by adding long-term costs. So we want to make sure we're spending in a way that accelerates learning, is aligned to the turnaround plan, but avoids programs, projects, and positions that we'll have to cut after the life of the stimulus funds. And then a big part of this too, and part of our focus today is getting feedback. And I think that's one of the benefits, again, of the long runway of these dollars, is that we have time to gather feedback, not just once, but over the course and life of the funds here. So to highlight a few things that were already underway that the superintendent highlighted a bit. We are already making a push on student-centered facility upgrades. So we work with schools and school leaders to understand some kind of wish list items that will have an impact that will make schools feel like different places when students return in the fall. So we are starting to do some of that work now and then over the course of the summer. We are also trying to enhance and accelerate some of those turnaround action plan priorities, knowing that because of the rich engagement that we had to develop the turnaround action plan, we already kind of have a blueprint and some direction on how we can spend funds there. Boost grants, for those, we've had some exciting awards this week to award to the kind of great thinking of our teachers and others who had come up with ways to support innovative learning and instructional models. And so we were excited to share awards with teachers who had submitted those designs, as well as offers and requests for the community to engage in this process too, and trying to tap into the collective wisdom of our school communities and the Providence community more broadly. And then lastly, we're already working to plan for next year in terms of PP&E purchases. You saw at the last board meeting approving all the replacement filters for our HEPA machines. So all that work is already underway, and we feel like we've got a good rhythm to that given the experiences this year. We look at the next slide. I now want to turn it over to Kachar to dig into a little bit of our the LEAP strategy for PPST.
Yes, good evening, board members, community. I'm Kachar Bradford, Deputy Superintendent of Learning. And our long-term strategy is to focus on what we're calling LEAP, learning, equity, and accelerated pathways, not only in the upcoming school year, but in years to come, and really grounded on these foundational principles of creating truly innovative and exciting learning experiences for all students, as well as targeting our highest areas of need. So looking at our data, and then providing social emotional supports for all students and staff, raising expectations for all students. And then to Zach's point that he shared is just ensuring sustainability to make a long-term impact. So really using these funds to impact school in the upcoming year and in years future. Next slide, please. So in doing that, when we think about that first principle of innovative learning experiences for all students, on the left-hand side, you'll see some of our current data and, where we are in Providence, as well as, across the country as we're grappling with things such as absenteeism. 60% of our students were chronically absent when we looked at data this past April compared to just 37% in years prior. So that lets us know a little bit of how we can prepare to respond, as well as 55% of students in grades 6 through 12 really didn't feel like their school had rigorous expectations. And all of this falls under that umbrella of the opportunity myth that we know when we raise expectations, students rise to that level of support as well as expectation. So on the right-hand side are some of the research-based best practices that we're really looking to invest our stimulus funds in, starting with the launch of our summer learning academies. And so you heard before that first grade through 12th grade, really standing up an elementary summer experience focused on STEAM and literacy, just making it more engaging, providing more extracurricular opportunities, and as well as advanced learning courses for our students who are both our MLL as well as differently abled. So really providing more opportunity and access to extended learning opportunities. Next slide, please. So when we think about innovative learning experiences for our students, one of the questions that we're asking our community and also for you board members is, do you agree with the prioritization of the expansion of those innovative type of learning experiences, including the extracurriculars, the extended learning opportunities, and then what innovative learning experiences would increase student and family engagement? So part of our conversation is really to give room and invite, the community to support our ideas right now, and then also to, give us more ideas moving forward. Next slide. So thinking about targeting academic programs to students who need it the most, we looked at our data and, we are a district of multilingual students. We also are a district that supports about 18% of our students receive special education services. And when we look at those student groups, as well as the students who were chronically absent, we can see that they have significantly lower scores in the areas of reading and math as compared to their peers. And then the gap is even wider, of course, as you can imagine, for a student that falls into multiple categories. So research tells us on the right-hand side that there are some strategies that we would like to begin implementing, and you can see those there. And I'll just highlight the small group tutorials for 9th grade math. One of the areas that our data shows us is that students can be successful in Algebra 1 the first time. They have a much greater chance of being successful and persevering through college. So really 100% of our students being successful in algebra, one support for that is classroom embedded small group tutorials for our 9th grade students as an example. And then you can see the others listed there as ideas. And so when we think about targeting academic programs, do you agree with some of the areas that we're prioritizing supports for those identified students, students receiving special education services, our students who are multilingual, as well as students who we've seen this year have had that excessive absenteeism? And with this group of students, what initiatives would you focus on? Are we moving in the right direction with that intensive high dosage tutoring that we've seen from the research? And what other ideas would you focus on? And board members, you can jump in, but we can also wait to the end as well. And so the last area that I want to really stand up is, I'm sure everyone has heard just about the social emotional health and well-being of our students. But going beyond our students and knowing that we can't help our students if we're not also helping our staff is a focus on, just staff and student mental and emotional recovery from the pandemic. So on the left-hand side, you'll see again some of the data about emergency room visits and our students, really 24% increase. And when you look at the data from KidsLink, you'll see that, across the board, there's that increase in calls from 2020 moving forward. So one of the strategies that we're implementing, and you can see more of them on the right-hand side, but a great research-based strategy is for us to support with additional counselors. And so this year we are committing to hiring at the elementary level counselors in the elementary school, where previously we've had them at secondary only, but now adding counselors in elementary, but also just making that focus of the social emotional learning as much as we are prioritizing the academic return, but looking at grief, trauma, and loss programming for students as well as staff. Next slide. So when we think about social and emotional support and just that health and well-being, do you agree with us prioritizing that for students and staff? And then what initiatives would you focus on investing in social emotional learning for students and staff? So really looking at getting feedback on, we know this is where we want to prioritize, and then what should that look like? And I think it will be different elementary, middle, and high school, just even different, depending on the campus, but for us to have that as like our large focal point area. So thinking about these questions, we know that we need to raise expectations for all of our students, that we can't afford to lower our expectations and go back to remediate, and that we can't try the same approaches that may have failed in the past. So moving forward, we are leaping forward with learning, equity, and accelerated pathways by providing more rigorous opportunities for students, as well as the wraparound supports and services. And on the next slide, we are going to be launching into just engaging in this conversation with our community, We would love for our school board to join us and to have a role in any of these sessions as much as you feel comfortable with, but for us to partially share our data and our plans where we are right now, but also get feedback and input from our community. Thank you.
So I just had a quick question about opening. So way back to the beginning of the presentation. Has there been, I mean, I think I know what the answer to this question is, but since we're in a public setting, I should ask it. Has there been any thought to requiring vaccinations for at least high school aged students for the fall? We obviously require other kinds of vaccinations. So has there been some thought to doing that, and any planning using stimulus money perhaps in order to encourage or make more accessible the vaccine for middle school students, and when that becomes relevant, younger students as well?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, on the requirements of the vaccination, that's something that anytime we're thinking of that, we would be work closely with RIDE and RIDO on kind of a statewide push to do that, if that's what kind of is done at the state level. But we certainly want to encourage folks to do that. So we are trying to find ways to both continue testing as particularly for our students going through summer school, but also offering and encouraging and using our sites for vaccinations over the summer. So that's something that I can work more with Donna O'Connor on, who's been super on managing a lot of the testing, but we'll work to figure out more opportunities for vaccinations for our students over the summer as well.
And I'll just add, we're supposed to get state guidance soon on sort of what next year looks like. So that should be coming in the next few weeks.
Jumping on that question, what is the current guidance, or will there be guidance? Hi, Dean. Will there be guidance for teachers and staff and vaccinations?
Yeah, we anticipate that that guidance coming as we're still operating under this year's guidance, but my understanding is fairly soon, likely in early July, guidance for next year will be released on all the things related to social distancing, mask wearing, and presumably how that differentiates or is impacted by people who are or are not vaccinated.
Bradford, I wanted to just address your questions about the social emotional learning, and just also say that I'm very concerned about the mental health of all of our children, including the elementary kids. And I think that's a wonderful emphasis to focus some of our stimulus funds on that. It also stood out to me in looking at the new SurveyWorks results that there was three categories where I think we really need to do better as a district. Parent engagement had some of the lowest scores in terms of what parents and families were saying. There was also perceived low engagement in terms of creating connectiveness between teachers and students. And I think it's really important to feel as a student that you have a champion in your building. And in terms of the reasons why, the third category that really stood out to me is just resources. I feel like when the teachers answered their survey and also the building personnel answered surveys, they felt that Providence was, that they felt they were under-resourced. And I don't know what the motivation for that is. It does seem like that resources score is improving, but it's overall lower than a lot of the other districts in the state. And I wonder if those are all connected in some way. And I'd love your thoughts on that.
I think, thank you for that feedback, and using data as much as possible to help steer us and guide us, but also engaging teachers and students in the conversation is going to be very powerful. We know social emotional health and wellness looks one way to us as adults, and it looks very different sometimes for students. We've also been partnering with Rhode Island College and working with their social work department for some of their graduate interns to partner with us this year. So we have a good group coming to support and help in our schools as well. So looking at how we can stand up more of those supports and services where students feel like they have that caring, trusting adult that they can go to and talk to. And, when talking to high schoolers, they said, some days we're fine, and some days we just need someone for 30 minutes that we can share, or I need to tell them my friend's not doing so well. Like, they know when each other needs something. And really, I think the return to school in the fall will be so beneficial because I think us being able to really wrap our hands around and arms around our students in this area will be a strength for us in general. So thank you for elevating the survey works data for us.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments from the board regarding this presentation? I have a couple of questions. So one, I did see the information. It was posted on Facebook 2 days ago regarding the forums. Will these forums be held? They're only being held virtually, correct? And will they be translated? Or will there be breakout rooms for speakers of other languages?
Audrey, I'm not sure if you're able to join, but I believe they are being translated, and I'm not sure if she's on, but yes, they are being translated
In Spanish.
In Spanish.
We'll have
And are folks registering? Like what's the logistics of these town halls? Like how many people are you expecting? Are people registering? You know, how are you preparing for the folks that show up?
Hi, sorry, this is Audrey. I've been having some technical difficulties, but anyone can log on. There's no pre-registration required. We've been sharing the links on our social channels. We've been sending them out to families directly via Kinvo, and folks can just hop on the link. It's the same link for all 3 sessions, so really hoping to make it as easy as possible for folks to join.
And Audrey, just a follow-up question. Is there a program or presentation or panel, or there's a lot of alliteration there, but something that will come first and then comments and questions from the audience? Is that the general format?
Yeah, so it's actually pretty much the exact same presentation you received this evening. So if there's feedback on things that we didn't include here that you think would be helpful, like please feel free to reach out to me directly. We'd love to hear your thoughts and input, having just heard this presentation. And then there will be some in-presentation surveys and then a survey that will follow up with families after, and that will also be available in English and Spanish.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So as someone who has been running virtual programs, you know, for the past 1.5 years, I know that number 1, Zoom fatigue is real. Number 2, unless you have an engaged community, you are not likely to get much participation, much attendance, never mind participation. And I feel as though the information that I'm seeing online is a little vague. I mean, I'm hoping that you all get great turnout and that there's discussion, but I'm wondering if you have a plan B. If you get very low participation, will there be like a follow-up conversation with more, I don't know, maybe the Parents Academy that, communities that you already have their ear on, right?
Yep. So I think we're going to do a combination of, we have a number of existing stakeholder groups that we're kind of doing a round of conversations with. So we're going to keep those conversations going throughout the summer. And then I think we're also just generally viewing this as the start to engagement. Some of the ideas we're toying with too are, if there are specific areas of focus, do we create, working groups that are going to continue to work on that over a longer period of time and kind of oversee the funding. But I think we're really viewing this as the kickoff, and based on feedback and based on how this goes, we'll continue engagement throughout the summer. And I think, at least for a while we're still kind of figuring out what the budget for the COVID funding is.
And then just a general comment on reopening. So I still feel, and then Superintendent Montañez, this is for you. You as a principal of your school, you were very much aware of what was going on in every classroom. But from this level, as far as the board and what the community know what's going on in individual schools, I feel as though there's a lot of confusion, vagueness, like we're not really sure how reopening will actually work on the ground. I mean, I'm sure that folks are still working on it. Like there's still guidance and things that need to happen over the summer. There's all kinds of things can happen over the summer. But I feel that by August, the board and the community would like to know logistically how reopening is actually going to work and what programs will be in place. We're talking a lot about social emotional supports and things like that. And I just want to know for sure, okay, in our elementary schools, this is what this looks like. These are the programs that exist. Yes, we have additional counselors. What are they focusing on? Like, what is actually happening on the ground? Because right now I feel like the information is too high level and too vague. So unless, if there are any other board members that would like to chime in, but that's how I've been feeling.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate that too, actually, because I think in terms of the presentations for the stimulus town halls, and more broadly, one of the challenges we've had as a board and a district in communicating with the community is that we use a lot of edu-speak in our own communications with one another. It's a shorthand. Every profession does that. It saves us a lot of time to be able to do that. And I've been on the board long enough now that most of the time the terms and the acronyms come across and I know what they mean, or at least I can ask the question. But I think as we do these stimulus town halls and any further community outreach, we need to comb through our presentations to come up with concrete examples that parents can wrap their heads around of social emotional learning. What is that? That's not a term in everyday use. It's a term in our everyday use, but and a good one, but not in everybody else's everyday use. So I think we have to we have to try and be clear in communicating what that means in very concrete ways. What is my child's school? Who's going to be there now to deal with what, right? So just to kind of reiterate the point that Erin just made.
And just in terms of concrete examples, one of the things that I've been curious about and I've asked about at this meeting is what we're doing in terms of reentry for children that should have been started kindergarten and then decided to stay at home that year. And I know that we had talked about some type of reentry exam. Are those happening? What do we think enrollment's going to look like? I know at my kids' elementary school, they actually only had one kindergarten class instead of 2 kindergarten classes. So how are we dealing with the people that are coming back with the students who are coming back from virtual learning, and how are we going to make sure that they're being placed in the right classroom setting so that everybody can learn at their level?
Yep, thank you. That's good feedback. Several board members, I appreciate it. Definitely we'll bring back, I think that's great if we meet in August and we go through reopening plans and what that looks like from just the logistics, the kind of health and wellness, and the academic pieces. Is that right?
I think your audio is off.
Your audio is broken up.
Yeah, the audio was a little funky. It was a little bit like a Parliament Funkadelic song there.
I was personally frightened.
Mr. Stevens, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I like all you guys' questions. You guys had great questions. Everything that I was wondering, you guys said. So, like I said, just making sure that the families understand and they know, as well as the principals, because a lot of principals don't know the exact information of exactly what's going on. So as long as we just communicate that and we find a resource to put those out there to the families, I strongly think that we should be headed in the right direction. So just like, let's make sure we just communicate it all between the board, the schools, and the community.
Mr. Ibiami?
Yeah, I just looking at this virtual arrangement. All the questions you asked are very, very excellent. I'm just hoping the board will, I know they said they're gonna do this at the first, starting the first one on Saturday. I hope they can go beyond that to be able to incorporate the feedback from whatever they get from the meetings that they have. I've attended a couple of family engagement meetings with the city, but it's like, To me, those conversations are just like, let's give it to you, let's give this information, and, not expecting what comes from the parent side or the question. So I hope that I think I did think deeply about this, that we can get more feedback with beyond the virtual meeting. If we try to arrange like a conference, like a one-on-one, where we have a physical setup that we'll be able to see, and if we can go around the community, I know the district was trying to do something around that, and talking with the CAB and all the districts and the community around. So I think the larger, the more we open this up to the community, not to a specified or specific audience, the better we're going to get some meaningful feedback. Because if we attend it, I approach the same audience at all times, we're probably going to get the same response. But if we look at diversity beyond the usual people that call in, I think we're going to get something constructive from the community. So I look forward to doing that. And since they said you guys want board input, we'll be more than willing to offer some suggestions, and in reaching out to, like the smaller chunky communities where we can get something meaningful, and where voices can be heard, and where some results can happen. So that's what I have for now. I'll be there on Saturday and try to see what is going to happen, and hopefully we'll get something good from there. Thank you.
Really quick, Deputy Bradford, there's flyers, right? I believe I've seen flyers of the events. Is there flyers or no?
Audrey, do we have flyers?
So we've been posting on Facebook, but we can certainly send something around if you'd like a flyer.
Yes, please. Can you just send it to my email, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, was that it for that presentation from the district?
Yes, that was it. We really wanted to get your feedback before are you all able to hear me? Okay, I'm scared now. We wanted to get your feedback, and then also invite you to join us on these engagements. And definitely we can follow up after this meeting if there's a certain portion that you would like to share more about or get more input from families. That's really our goal, is like, these are the broad areas that we're looking at, but we want to hear from families. I appreciate the feedback. Definitely, I use a lot of education ease. So you can partner with me to translate this, and just to make, families really have a good view of what school will look like. And so if there's a particular section that you'd like to kind of tag team with us or lean in during the question and answer phase, that would be great.
Any more comments from the district, Ms. Hart?
I was just jumping into something that Dr. Goldberg had said, where she was talking about the kindergartners that were supposed to be coming in that did not enroll this year. And one of the things that my colleague Sue Chin is doing with the PPSD Cares Initiative is actually working with Inspiring Minds to do home visits and drop off book bags. So making that connection. And we are also, for anybody new to the district, particularly at the elementary level, we're planning, now granted it's online, but we are planning multilingual back to school Zooms to orient them to the district. So we are trying to do some of those connective pieces that you were talking about, Liz.
Okay, if that's it for this presentation, we're going to move on to item number 6, academic year in review.
Kachara, if you're able to kick that off, I think it's to you. And then
if you can pull that up, I'd like to introduce one of our teachers, actually, Mr. Stephen Rocco, who's going to share, and you can start on slide 9. And Mr. Rocco is currently one of our VLA teachers. And so he's going to go through just a little bit of his year in review with the VLA and share some of his experience. So Mr. Rocco, I will pass it off to you once we get to slide 9.
I think it's a different presentation.
Yep, it sure is. I can pull it up if you'd like me to.
Yeah, that would be great because I do not have another slide deck.
Okay, can you give me screen sharing rights? Perfect, thank you. And I'll pass it over to you, Mr. Rocco.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Stephen Rocco, as I was introduced. I'm a business teacher at the Providence High School Virtual Learning Academy. And I wanted to thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to present a summary of our performance for the 2021 school year. I invite you to access my full presentation at http://phsvla.org, since it's 47 slides with active links, and I don't want to take too much of your time. I'll be giving you the condensed version. So first of all, I'd like to have a little introduction about how the Virtual Learning Academy came about. Began as an alternative school option during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic for students whose parents were apprehensive about having their children attend school in person. At its inception, there were approximately 1,500 students enrolled, and when it was determined that Edgenuity could not accommodate multi-language learners, about 400 students were transferred to another platform. The faculty were chosen either as a safe assignment for teachers with medical conditions or due to lower enrollments in the high school buildings. A rigorous online learning management system, Edgenuity, was chosen. Edgenuity offers grade level and mastery-based curriculum and advanced placement classes. 52 teachers were given this assignment, and we began our professional development on Thursday, September 3rd, with Edgenuity training. Few teachers knew what the Edgenuity platform was, and they found out very early on how complex it really was. Teachers and administrators faced these obstacles as a team by developing creative solutions to meet these challenges. Many of our student rosters were not given to us for up to a week after school started. Student transitions in and out took place for most of the first semester. Teachers were learning the Edgenuity platform and curriculum for several weeks while trying to work with students. The following slides will display the level of planning and execution that was done in a virtual environment to build this into a successful alternative school where students can thrive, receive support, belong to a community, and achieve academic success. The presentation will show the positive components developed and the progress made in building this groundbreaking way of learning literally from the ground up. I'd like to first introduce our administrators, Ms. Christina Russell, Director of Innovative Programs, Mr. Mark Catone, our Assistant Director, Ms. Zawadi Hawkins, Assistant Principal in Semester 2, and Ms. Jessica Sylvester, our Guidance Counselor. She was the go-to person on our team. These three people were instrumental in the development and progression of this program. Through their support, supervision, collaboration, and trust, they guided the faculty in initiating and developing successful implementation by allowing us to take ownership of and development of these components. These accomplishments could not have been realized without them at the helm of this team. In my opinion, this is the way a school should truly operate. I just, well, you're on slide 11 already, but I'm still on a 10, but that's okay. Initial steps. Virtual teaching way of work and expectations were explained and set up with flexible and extended available hours, daytime, afternoon, evening, and weekend. Whole class, small group, and one-on-one instruction was provided to engage students in a meaningful way. Individual education plans were supported through tutoring and one-to-one synchronous instruction through Google Meet and Zoom. Faculty Google Classrooms are set up immediately to share a plethora of teacher resources and Edgenuity support resources. Teachers made connections with students and parents. Teachers set up office hours for communicating with students and parents. Teachers collaborated with special education teachers from their home schools. Teachers set up differentiated instruction. An online confidential wellness referral form was created for teachers to refer students they recognized as having personal, family, and/or social emotional needs. A few professional development sessions with Edgenuity trainers were provided, and a variety of committees were formed. In the second semester, we were required to reboot our virtual advisory program to meet the needs of students. We branded this CHAT, C-H-A-T-T advisory, as it stands for Community Health and Wellness Advisory Together in Time. Each advisory was regrouped according to homeschool and grade level to accommodate the Naviance program. Student academic support plans were implemented in order to offer wraparound supports for students. Our student academic support plans were data-driven and focused on closely working with at-risk students to set goals for greater academic achievement. A high school VLA website was created for parents, students, VLA staff, and community members. I personally purchased my own domain name, phsvla.org, since we did not have accessibility to the district's Blackboard platform. Faculty was divided into 7 departments, and teacher leaders were chosen to facilitate weekly PLCs, professional learning communities, and communicate with their department members. Committees were developed and met weekly to plan outreach and engagement activities such as student success and wellness, attendance, student support, parent university, and the taste of cultures. Virtual parent conferences were scheduled and held for a week-long period in the fall and the spring using the district-provided web application sign-up. Parent University was designed and organized by Bethany Beretta in an attempt to engage parents as partners in the use of the Edgenuity platform. Sessions were scheduled for mornings, evenings, and afternoons to accommodate parent work schedules. Before the new year, this is going to be redundant, but before the new year, we were informed that our advisory needed to be rebooted and students shuffled to make the advisories more school specific to accommodate the use of the Naviance curriculum. A team of teachers created lesson plans each week. A student art gallery was added to our website to showcase student artwork. Christine Prescott, our art teacher and Unified Arts teacher leader, secured 100 art kits donated by New Urban Arts in Providence. And students were encouraged to display their work in the art gallery. Taste of Culture's website and blog was created and invited students, parents, and faculty to submit recipes with videos for an online cookbook. Fun Friday, a series of speakers and activities that included cooking classes, graphic design, and post-secondary information featuring PPSD alumni. All-school Kahoot challenge was created and organized by John Healy's advisory students, promoted as by students for students. A Facebook group page was created to develop a social media presence, and we created contests and incentives to increase student engagement and progress in courses. Slide 12, you're on it. Zawadi Hawkins met weekly with designated homeschool liaisons to create a bridge with homeschools. All targeted mail merge emails and Kinvo communications were sent to parents and students, grade level specific, homeschool specific, and subject specific when requested. An enormous amount of communications were sent by teachers using multiple means of communication. Slide through 13, please. As you can see at the numbers, it's unbelievable how much communication we made. Slide 14. Thank you. Bethany Beretta led our performance-based diploma assessment class for seniors. 41 of 44 seniors completed their research and presentations. Other seniors had completed it with their home schools. 15, please. The number of students decreased for various reasons. Students moving to another platform, most returning to in-person, and just the fact that a virtual option is not for everyone. However, our grades data shows an overall increase in passing grades of 20%, 15% in A, B, and C categories, as students became acclimated to a virtual learning way of work and they began to take advantage of our added supports and incentives. Our test data, we have VLA used Reading Plus, a district application described as an adaptive literacy solution that improves fluency, comprehension, vocabulary, stamina, and motivation. We ranked second in the district in average level gains at 1.3% and first in the category at or close to grade level at 15%. Our PSAT and SAT performance data speaks for itself, which you can't see, but I will tell you that in each test, in fall and spring, we placed second or third in the district as compared to all other high schools. 86 seniors stayed with us for the entire year. 76 were June graduates, so that makes our graduation rate in June 89% with a projection of 98% in August after our extension program that's going in place. So in place of summer school, we're offering a summer extension program beginning next week to give our students the opportunity to finish what they've started by continuing their work in the Edgenuity platform. Slide 16. We have a plethora of student feedback, parent feedback, and teacher feedback from our survey data. We did an end of the year survey. But there's one item in particular I'd like to read, if I may. I'd like to read two emails that were sent by both parents of a graduating senior. First one, dear Mrs. Russell, thank you for a wonderful, supportive year despite all the setbacks of the pandemic. I want to personally thank you for the wonderful work that was expressed by your staff. At the end, I felt like we had established a family setting. It is a real testimony to the fact that there has to be a partnership between the school and the parent. Your school has mastered the art of teen development. I feel proud to know that John, that's a fictitious name, has fulfilled all graduation requirements despite all odds. Thanks once again. And then the father wrote this about one of our teachers, Peter Breen. Dear Mrs. Russell, I wish to convey my sincerest praise to your entire staff. A special mention to Mr. Peter Breen, who has really demonstrated sound paternal and fiduciary duties in ensuring that John completed his schoolwork in a timely manner and offering a lot of life lessons. I'm glad that John had the opportunity to attend your school and to have benefited from the counseling of your wonderful staff. Thanks once more. And you had the opportunity to read some of these comments, but they're all online anyway. All these slides are online. So I don't want to take up much more time, but I would like to say that slides 38 to 46 on my presentation offered several recommendations just from what we had to go through this year to hopefully bring it to a different level if you ever decide that we're going to do this again. So I'm not obviously not going to go through all that. So finally, I just want to read something that a summary. This is the end here. I saw the tweet at Left on May 10th, and I know it was unrelated to the VLA struggles this year, but this statement is so true of any new program, organization, or business, and especially ours. 52 teachers and two and a half, I should say, administrators who had never met before September with no prior planning banded together virtually and with leadership, collaboration, and cooperation, built the Providence Virtual Learning Academy into a viable entity. We know virtual learning is not for every student, but there is a niche for this. It is a growing trend, and since it seems like this program is not going to continue, we hope that PPSD at least takes some pages from this book of our accomplishments and refers to it in the future, since we have left you a program with a solid foundation. And the tweet on the right, as you can see, says, obviously, it takes 3 to 5 years to see new programs impact. And one other comment I'd like to make before I close. I was watching Channel 12 tonight, and I saw a report about the Virtual Learning Academy and the attendance rate in Providence schools. But, you know, I'm very passionate about what I do. Obviously, I think you can tell that. And it irritates me when the VLA gets lumped into the middle school, the elementary, and the high school. And as you can see, I think that what we've done here is it will rival any homeschool, any brick and mortar building to make this program work. But it kind of irritates me when I hear these comments from the public about the VLA. This program was a true virtual learning program. This program was not remote learning or distance learning or hybrid with AB days and in-person learning as well as Zoom simultaneously in a classroom. And it's not the same, and it needs to be distinguished. I'm sorry to say, it irritates me when I hear this, and the report I saw tonight was irritating, not so much because of the VLA attendance or whatever, but just the nature of the elementary, middle school, and the high school virtual learning are totally separate things. So with that said, I'll leave you. I thank you for the opportunity, and I hope I didn't insult anybody.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Rocco. We definitely appreciate having you come this evening and wanted to give you the time to share.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is that it for the presentation?
Yes.
Any comments from the board, questions?
Mr. Rocco, I also wanted to say thank you. It's really nice to hear from teachers during this meeting, and congratulations on all your work putting this together. I know that there were a lot of challenges of putting together a whole new school, and this was like another school, but in the virtual format. So your work is appreciated, and I also thank you for sharing all this data and information with us.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Rather than to say thank you so much for that, because that's a huge sacrifice that you guys are able to pull through in a matter of little month. And, even if I think you have the satisfaction that you've done your best and you've given it your best. So whatever other people say, what matters is the effort, the energy, and the testimonies that the parents and the children give. That will give you that satisfaction. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
and I certainly agree. And it reminds me of the fact that we as a board, I think, need to hear from a teacher perspective on programming and change much more often than we do. I mean, we each individually get that as we seek it, but it would be really, really helpful because, of course, speaking to the board is speaking to the community too. So it's really valuable. So thank you very much for your work.
Thank you.
And I'll add as well, I had the privilege of talking with Mr. Rocco earlier this year, and he was talking to me about VLA, the growth and the strength areas of it. And I can hear and feel your passion, and I heard it through the phone when you was talking to me about it. So I really do want to thank you. A lot of people, you know what they say about the teachers, thinking that we don't really have passionate teachers, but we have a lot of passionate teachers, and you're the prime example. So I do want to thank you for putting on that presentation, and hopefully some further employment within the district.
So what is the future of the PVLA? Is it coming back in the fall?
I think we're really looking at just following the state guidance and bringing as many students in as person. We do have a great system here with Edgenuity. We are kind of in negotiation with that vendor to look at what opportunity we would have for students in the fall. So they do a lot with just credit recovery, or if students need, 1 or 2 credits to graduate. So we're looking at how we can utilize that platform in the fall, and we can bring an update for you at our next meeting.
So again, just wanted to echo everybody's statement, of thanks to Mr. Rocco and his team, those 52 teachers who rose to the occasion to be able to serve our students during this difficult year. There was a note, I remember in the presentation, it said something about, it was a format platform created for parents, for families of students whose parents were apprehensive about the return into school. And back in September of last year, it wasn't an apprehension, it was an actual fear and actual inability to enter the school buildings for health reasons, for economic reasons, for a number of reasons. So we do have to commend this team for rising to the occasion and serving our students as they did. To Mr. Rocco's point, and all of you are frozen, I don't know if you can hear me. To Mr. Rocco's point, a program like this does take several years to really strengthen. And so out of all of this effort, and training and everything else has been put in, I really do hope that a version of this does continue to serve those students who cannot enter the building for whatever the reason, whether it's COVID related or not. There were some comments about anxiety and other mental health situations happening with students, or even medical situations happening with students that we need to consider. We do lose students to virtual learning platforms all the time, and so this would be a way to keep them moving forward. So I hope that we can keep this program and that we hear about it soon. So unless there are any other comments from the district or the board. Okay, so I consulted President Hemond, and given that Mr. Ibiyemi joined us halfway, we have to do the awkward thing of going back on the agenda and going through through the roll call and the votes that we were supposed to take today. And there's really only three. So unless there's any other business, we'll go back to that. All right, so I'm gonna start with roll call. So just to reiterate, Mr. Hemond is absent, Mr. Thomas is absent, and Mr. Escobar are absent. And Dr. Santow, you are here.
I am here.
Mr. Ibiyemi?
Here.
Dr. Goldberg?
Here.
Mr. Stevens?
Present.
And I am here, which means we had quorum as of around 7 o'clock, I think is when I noticed that Mr. Ibiyemi had joined us. And so we need to go back to item number 2 and approve the agenda as presented. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And finally, for the last thing, I believe, right?
All in favor, say
aye.
What was that?
Yeah, there was a motion on the seconder, but we don't know if everybody's in favor. Who will say aye?
Oh, do we have to do the one-on-one? Like one?
You do have to do the roll call vote.
Vote.
All right, roll call vote. I say aye.
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 Okay, so now that we have that practice, or I do, we could do it again to adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? Mr. Ibiyemi, you seconded it?
Yeah, I was gonna think Dr. Liz would say it so that it will be the same stream, but I second it.
Okay, awesome. Now roll call vote to adjourn the meeting. Aye.
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 And aye.
Okay, and that's it.
Actually, I joined the meeting on YouTube early at 6:30, so I didn't come at 7. So I wanted to be on record.
Good to see you too, Mr. Gallick. I'm gonna catch up with you. I'm gonna send you an email.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right, well,
Everybody, be
so
well.
much.
Take care.
Yeah, good
Bye.
evening.
Good evening. Bye.